So before we get into this subject, what is a field marshal's baton? Put simply, it is the symbol of his rank, and usually takes the form of an ornate and bejeweled metal stick, which he carries and raises to salute, etc. The tradition is very old in many European armies, but Britain is one of the few nations left to still retain the rank of field marshal, though it is now only a ceremonial rank. The most famous holder of the rank of field marshal today is the head of the army, His Majesty the King. I've seen close-up field marshals' batons before, but it's always a little thrilling to touch or hold items that were personally owned and used by significant historical figures. Many of you are undoubtedly familiar with my private tour of House Daun, the Dutch castle where the exiled Kaiser Wilhelm II lived out the last 2 decades of his life. And at Daun I was able to see and handle batons that were once used by the last German emperor. For example, this Prussian Army Field Marshal's baton, his Imperial Navy Grand Admiral's baton, and the Kaiser's British Field Marshal's baton, he being an honorary senior officer appointed by his nephew, King George V, into the British Army. The British King likewise being a Field Marshal in the German Army. The royal collection curiously never showing to the public in Britain George V's German uniforms and regalia. Can't think why. However, all of this pales in comparison to the batons of the Third Reich, and people are definitely more interested in the accoutrements of Hitler's loyal subordinates than in the effects of a deposed emperor. A VPN, short for Virtual Private Network, is a cybersecurity tool for privacy and security. When you connect to it, a VPN creates a secure tunnel. It secures data traveling between you and the VPN server. Encryption scrambles data, so to anyone outside the encrypted tunnel, the information looks like gibberish, meaning no snoops can sneak a peek at your online activity. A VPN enables you to browse safely and privately with just a few clicks. Imagine grabbing the best deals for your holiday and being able to enjoy your favorite online content without borders, wherever you go, all with the secure connection. All this and more is possible with NordVPN. Who will show you how? Visit nordvpn.com/Mark Felton for NordVPN's exclusive deal. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. NordVPN. Sign up now. Third Reich batons are a bit thin on the ground. Some 25 were manufactured and presented, though not all of them have survived. Some, of course, are in private collections and can't be seen by the public, and a few are scattered in museums, many of the best in the United States because they were captured by US troops. For example, both of Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring's batons, which are among the most ornate ever made. But one baton is to be found in the United Kingdom, and it is a unique specimen, a Grand Admiral's baton presented to Karl Dönitz in 1943 by Adolf Hitler on his promotion to that exalted naval rank. Only the second naval officer to hold the rank of Grand Admiral during the Third Reich era, equal to an Army or Air Force Field Marshal, the other being Erich Raeder. Raeder's baton was also unique. The naval baton's shaft was covered in dark blue material and incorporated Kriegsmarine symbols, primarily the fouled anchor. Raeder's baton was unique in that it had a chain-link pattern sewn over the symbols on the shaft. Raeder's baton doesn't exist anymore, having been broken up and sold in parts just after the war. Karl Dönitz, a World War I U-boat skipper, became famous earlier in the war for commanding Germany's pretty successful U-boat campaign until the Allies managed to turn the tide at the conclusion of the Battle of the Atlantic. Dönitz's reward was promotion to command of the entire Kriegsmarine with the rank of Grand Admiral following Raeder's retirement. With the promotion came his symbol of rank, an elaborate baton. At the end of the war, Hitler decreed that Dönitz would succeed him, with the title of Reich President, and this indeed happened on Hitler's death on the 30th of April 1945. Dönitz forming a rump Nazi government in northern Germany that was allowed by the British, for various reasons, to remain in existence until the 23rd of May 1945, as 3 weeks after the surrender of Nazi Germany. On that date, British forces launched a swift operation, codenamed Blackout, to occupy the last Nazi government and headquarters at Flensburg, and arrested everyone, including Dönitz. His elaborate baton was found among his personal effects and taken by Captain Hugh Williams, the 2nd Army headquarters, who in turn presented it to Brigadier Jack Churcher, commanding 159th Infantry Brigade that undertook Operation Blackout, and Churcher later presented the baton to the King's Shropshire Light Infantry Regimental Museum, now called the Soldiers of Shropshire Museum in Shrewsbury, where it has been on public display ever since, a unique item, the only Third Reich Marshal's baton on public display in the UK. I was very kindly invited to see the baton for myself at the end of last year, and given the signal honour of actually handling it. It was also a special day as Dönitz's car pennants, which were taken as trophies off his Mercedes staff car by men of the Herefordshire Regiment, were reunited for the first time in decades with the baton at the Soldiers of Shropshire Museum, so I could photograph them all together. So many thanks to the Herefordshire Regiment Museum for doing this. The baton measures 19 3/8 inches long. The shaft is aluminium, over which is blue felt, with platinum, gold and silver end caps. The shaft is decorated with alternating Nazi eagles, fouled anchors and iron crosses. The top finial end cap is decorated with a U-boat war badge, and the bottom end cap has a swastika embellished on it. There is a dedication in Latin-style script. It reads, Der Führer dem Grand Admiral Dönitz, the Führer to Grand Admiral Dönitz, followed by Zum Freiheitskampf des Großdeutschen Volkes, on the freedom struggle of the greater German people, and the date January 1943. So what's it like to handle this object? I've seen plenty of footage of Dönitz holding this object during the war, and it is very strange to handle something so intimately associated with the inner circle of Hitler's government. It was surprisingly light. I expected it to be much heavier, and it is very well balanced and comfortable to hold and salute with. As with all holders of such batons, Dönitz was also presented with a so-called interim or field service baton, a less elaborate stick with an ornate silver and gold top, more durable and less valuable than the ornate presentation baton, and easier to carry. Dönitz used both regularly and was filmed doing so. So what became of Dönitz's interim baton? Well, he was definitely carrying it when he was arrested by the British on the 23rd of May 1945, and after that it wasn't seen again until November 2015, when it turned up at an auction in Germany from the estate of a British major of the Intelligence Corps who had helped take Dönitz prisoner at Flensburg on the 23rd of May 1945. The auctioneer's estimate for the interim baton was between 75,000 and 90,000 euros. Grand Admiral Dönitz was outraged by the humiliating treatment he received at his arrest and wrote a strongly worded letter to Field Marshal Sir Bernard Montgomery afterwards complaining about the loss of his batons. His 26th of May 1945 letter states, quote, "In the course of my detention by troops under your command 23-5 in Flensburg, I was forced to submit to a strip search that was devoid of all due consideration and respect for my rank. At the same time, a search of my personal belongings was carried out. In addition to a number of other valuable items, my marshal's baton was removed therefrom, where I had knowingly left my personal belongings, in the firm conviction that such insignia of a soldier of my rank would be treated with respect even by the victorious enemy. I have not received any form of receipt, neither for the confiscated valuables nor for my marshal's baton or my interim baton, which was taken from my person during the strip search." Field Marshal Montgomery ignored Dönitz's letter. Dönitz was later sent to Camp Ashcan in Luxembourg before being arraigned before the International Military Tribunal at Nuremberg, and at the conclusion of the trial in 1946 he received a 10-year prison sentence, which he served in Spandau prison alongside other former Nazis like Albert Speer and Rudolf Hess. Released in 1956, he later wrote 2 volumes of memoirs, and he also was interviewed for the famous British TV documentary series The World at War in 1973. Dönitz died at home in Aumühle in northern Germany on Christmas Eve 1980 from a heart attack. He was 89 years old. At his funeral, 100 holders of the Knight's Cross were in attendance, including dozens of former U-boat commanders. You may be wondering how much Dönitz's presentation baton is worth today. The staff at the Soldiers of Shropshire Museum told me that they occasionally receive offers from private collectors. The most recent was an offer of £2 million from a Hong Kong collector, but it is unlikely that they will ever sell the jewel of their collection. So if you can, head on down to the Soldiers of Shropshire Museum in Shrewsbury and see the baton in person, as well as a wealth of other military artifacts, many of them from World War II, including items that once belonged to Hermann Göring and others. And the same goes for the Herefordshire Regimental Museum at Hereford, where Dönitz's car pennants are on display. I've provided links to both museum websites in the description box. So now we must look into the intriguing question of other purported Dönitz batons that have surfaced in the past 80 years. I don't think the authenticity of the Dönitz baton at the Soldiers of Shropshire Museum can be questioned, due to how it was liberated from Dönitz on the 23rd of May 1945, and how the Grand Admiral's own letter of complaint to Montgomery 3 days later makes clear that his presentation baton and interim baton were taken from him at Flensburg. However, a very similar baton exists in the International Maritime Museum in Hamburg, Germany, which houses the Peter Tam collection. Some have suggested that this baton was Dönitz's actual baton, and the one in Shropshire was an earlier version that Dönitz had rejected for some reason. They are similar, though they are not the same. Apparently the Hamburg baton appeared after the fall of the Soviet Union in the early 1990s, and it has been compared side by side with the one at Shrewsbury. The theory is that this second baton was kept in storage at the Reich Chancellery in Berlin in case another officer was promoted to the rank of Grand Admiral and Hitler needed to present another naval baton. Or it was indeed made for Dönitz and kept at the Reich Chancellery in case his own baton became damaged or lost. It would follow that this baton was captured by the Red Army following the Battle of Berlin, and later sold off onto the open market after the fall of the Soviet Union. But a third Kriegsmarine baton also exists, or existed. The son of the man who allegedly found it said that his father, a private first class acting as a driver for an artillery lieutenant at the end of World War II in Europe, arrived at Obersalzberg on the 5th of May 1945, the day following the capture of Hitler's mountaintop village and his home. The PFC, the lieutenant, and another GI found 3 boxes in a bedroom in one of the Nazi properties at Obersalzberg, which were all in the process of being looted fairly thoroughly by US troops. 2 of the boxes were empty, but the one found by the PFC contained a collection of medals and a long black box with white satin interior with a Dönitz Grand Admiral's baton inside. The lieutenant pulled rank and took the items for himself, but the PFC made an official complaint to higher authority and the items were returned to him. Back in the United States in 1946, the PFC was stationed at Savannah, Georgia, and was moonlighting as a barman on certain evenings. One night, someone broke into his car outside the bar and stole the baton which was inside its box, but left the medals behind. This Dönitz baton has not been publicly seen since 1946. Perhaps someone watching this video has some information. If you do, please drop me a line. It's a fascinating mystery. Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon. Details in the description box below.